Good morning, ambitious business owners. Happy Tuesday. I'm back with another live, as I promised. So this week I'm talking about strategies. I hear a lot of people talking about strategies. When they tell me what their strategy is, it's massive. It's huge. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. And they have so many different elements of their overall strategy, umpteen of them. Generally, they're not measuring them, or they're not doing them very well. They're not doing them consistently. They're not really sure whether it's the right one. Lots of questions come out when people talk to me about strategies. Now, a lot of people try to overcomplicate them. And what I find is it's generally if you've come from working in a big business and corporate, or you've been an employee in an organization, and you're used to having a business that has the ability to implement lots and lots of different strategies to market their business. Now, of course, when you're a solo entrepreneur, hi, Anthony, when you're a solo entrepreneur, or maybe you've only got a small team, it's just not feasible to be able to have multiple strategies on the go. It's a bit like digital marketers advising you not to be on every single social media platform. It's not always necessary. And they all advise, and I do too, is pick one that you're good at, that you're going to be consistent at, that you're getting a return, that your customers are there and your target market's there, and just stick to that one until you've mastered it. And then it might be that you add on another one. But the same goes for marketing strategies. It's no good having, I don't know, an SEO strategy, a social media strategy, letterbox drops, print advertising, radio advertising, what else could you do? PR, there are so many strategies out there. Speaking gigs, yes, of course, you could do all these if you had a huge team. Hi, Melanie. Hi, Julia. If you had a big team, if you had a huge budget, or if you had the skills to do it, it's just not realistic. Generally, 2 or 3. But the crucial thing about picking a strategy is that it can work for you. So if you can't do it yourself, so let's say the strategy is that you're going to do a number of speaking gigs to sell in your program, or a coaching course that you're doing, or to sell a book, or whatever it might be. But actually, you don't have the time to go to speaking gigs, or you're really petrified on stage, or you're not very good at selling on stage. It just wouldn't be the right thing for you. It might be for some. So the first thing is, could you undertake that strategy? And if you can't, can you afford to outsource it? But the other thing you need to remember is it a measurable strategy? So it would be a bit like a local retailer doing or a service provider. Let's pick you, Julia, as a hairdresser. Hi, Peter. Like a local hairdresser does a local letterbox drop, but they don't have any way of measuring the success of that letterbox drop. We all know we can't rely on our customers to say, oh yeah, I saw your flyer. It just doesn't happen. Very rarely does it happen. So unless you make that strategy measurable and you add on a unique code or a unique offer that they have to mention when they book their hair, or they have to bring the flyer in and it has a voucher on it or something, they have to present it, then that's measurable. So any strategy you do, you've got to be measurable. Now, there are some examples, for example, being on social media. If you're on Facebook and you're posting on Facebook regularly, yes, there are measures that you can look at, but sometimes it's just basically having that presence because you need to be found, especially if you don't have a website. Some people don't have websites, they just use social media. That's okay. You've got to be found somewhere in the digital space generally. So picking a strategy that's doable for you. So I'll use mine, for example. So I've got a number of strategies. PR is one of mine, but the only reason I use PR is because I can do it. So it's only costing me my time to do it. It's one of the well, I've got something that I'll be announcing very soon that could help a lot of you with PR. But if you can do it yourself, fantastic. If you want to write guest blog articles for other people who've got your target market, that can be a fantastic strategy. If you do it consistently and, you know, regularly, find a magazine that will take a regular blog from you or will let you write an article each month. There are plenty out there. It could be that you're writing an article that goes in their newsletter or on their website. That is a strategy. And if you love writing and you've got lots of content to share, why not? Find your audience in somebody else to share it as well. Another strategy could be, so if you were, let's talk about online only. We've talked about guest blogging. So another strategy could be that you do a marketing partnership with another online business and you could create a giveaway or a promotion together. You could do an online event. You could do an offline event even. I've always talked about pop-ups. You can do that as a service or a product-based business. You've probably seen in the shopping malls the chiropractors that do the pop-ups, and they'll do you a spinal scan. It's a great way to generate new leads. They're in physical premises, but they go where their local market is, and they do a pop-up for a couple of weeks. So that's their strategy. So they may not be prolific on social media. They may not ever do flyer drops. They do those pop-ups, but they measure it. That's easily measurable. How many people did you speak to? How many people signed up? You know, you fill in a form and they send you information, or they'll book your first appointment. It's a measurable strategy. That could be their only strategy, and that's absolutely fine if it's working for them. You know, I know that PR works for me, so I keep doing it. I know that speaking gigs are quite useful to me. However, I haven't always got the time to do them. They are quite time consuming. And so I don't do them that regularly, but I know that they work if I do. So if I wanted to add 1 or 2 in each year, then I could. My strategy is not paid Facebook advertising, for example, at the moment. It's not to say I won't do it, but I've been upskilling myself and my team for the future to be able to do that. So as I say, it's all about finding something that works for you, that's affordable for you, that fits in with your time constraints, and your own personal likes as well. You know, it's no good picking the strategy of doing guest blog posting if you hate writing or you really struggle to think of things to write about. Why force yourself to do something that just doesn't fit and you don't enjoy? It's pointless. Now, there are times when actually you might want to test out doing Google AdWords, for example, if you're an online store. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you do your homework, you find a reputable company, they make sure they're testing first and it's measurable and you know what return you want from it. There's no problems, no issues with trying out different strategies, but don't just scattergun all these different strategies with no idea of how you're going to measure it, how much it's going to cost you, whether you've got a return. It's a waste of your time and money, and it breaks my heart when I hear people doing it. I've had a client recently who has spent thousands, lots of thousands, on Facebook boost posts. Sorry, that's my dog. No, shush. The joys of working at home with a dog. They didn't understand how to boost posts. They didn't understand the difference between boost posts and paid Facebook ads through Business Manager, and they were just throwing money at it. These are bricks and mortar. It's not an essential part of their strategy, and I've now jumped in and given them some guidance on this. But it's an easy mistake to make. But every time you decide which strategy you're going to do, think about how can I measure it? What do I want to get from this? What's the purpose of this? And generally, you want to gain new customers or make new sales. So look at strategies that you feel have the opportunity to do that. You don't just want to brand build all the time. You've got to generate new leads. And that's where the example of the chiropractors in the shopping malls is a great lead generator. The other advantage is it gets them in front of customers, and they get to understand more about their customers. What do they want? What are their frustrations? What are their challenges? And that's really important, whether you're an online or an offline business. That's why I love having some local customers, because I can pop in and see them, and I can talk to them, and I can find out what their problems are, which you don't always get if you're working remotely with them. Now, obviously, I've got customers all over Australia and, well, all over the world, in fact. So it's not always possible, but find ways to connect with them, as well as making sales from new ones. So any questions? I know there's a few of you watching. Please post in the comments. I'm very happy to chat about, you know, particular businesses that you've got. But as I say, don't think you've got to be everywhere at once. Don't think, unless you've got 5, 6, 7 more strategies on the go, that you're somehow not doing enough. You could have one fantastic strategy that works for you. You know, mine for the first, 3 years of my business was referral and word of mouth. Now, I knew that that's a risky strategy and it wasn't going to scale me particularly fast, but it worked. I still do it. I still operate off a high percentage of referrals and word of mouth. And I obviously encourage all of you to make sure that you do that. And that's done through delivering great service, well, yeah, doing a good job, basically, and then people will refer you. That is a strategy. That's a marketing strategy. But as I say, for me, I knew I wanted to add other strategies, and it wasn't just, I just didn't want to survive on word of mouth and referral, but easily measurable, something I could cope with. I wasn't going to get a sudden influx that I couldn't cope with. So it was a fantastic strategy for me, and still is, but I've since added others. And I must add, I added others as I could afford to, as I had the time, as I built my team, and I started using my team to implement some of the strategies as well. So again, if you've got staff, great. It might be that a strategy is managed by one of your team, but just don't try and take on too much, because generally you don't do any of them well. You forget to measure, you lose track of what's going on, and then you've kind of lost control of how things are working for you and how to grow and improve. So as I say, any questions, please fire away. And I look, is that somebody's got a question? Peter, great clarifying strategy, time and place. How do you suggest identifying which one to do when, certainly early on in the business? Yeah, now early on in the business, what I did was I obtained one client first. And I often say this, especially to service-based businesses, Peter. When you get your first client, you can learn so much from that person in terms of what strategies work. You know, how did you find them? You may have found them just through word of mouth, and that might be how you start out. And you might begin with a word of mouth strategy, and you encourage that and incentivize that. So it may be that your first client, you say, you know, do you know of somebody else like you that could benefit from this? And it might be that you give them a referral fee for sending someone across that then signs up with you. That could be your initial strategy from the start, because it potentially doesn't cost you anything, or something small, or you might gift them something, or you might do a value add. So you might give them an extra session, or a reduction off an ongoing coaching program, or something like that. That could be your strategy to kickstart things until you're turning over some money and you've got a few clients under your belt, and then you can add in some more. Because again, as I say, that's a strategy that you can do. You can do it yourself. It's not costing you anything really. And it will slowly build your business up. And as you're new to it, gain experience, get talking to people. So hopefully that answers your question, Peter. Again, it's going to be important for you to be on social, but for your dad's business, you know, for you, writing articles as well, Peter, getting content out there to your ideal audience could be fantastic, and speaking to dads. So yeah, right. Thanks all. I'll try to keep these fairly short. Any questions, put them in the chat box. Otherwise, you can ask me afterwards if you're not watching this live, and I'll always save these videos to my YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch them again if you can't find them in the group. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next week. And I can't remember what the topic is next week, but I'll keep picking topics that get sent to me. Thanks all.